So obviously this is the first time the Turner Prize is being held in a non-Tate venue.
Correct.
So could you tell us a bit about how this came about, essentially, in other words, why is the Baltic actually hosting the prize this year?
Well, I think it's a good arrangement for both parties. Baltic is now an established gallery. We're almost 10 years old. We've a strong reputation for presenting contemporary art, and particularly in a context where we engage with that art very carefully, and we have a really strong dialogue with our audiences to create the debate around contemporary art, to give people a really strong engagement. Now, Turner Prize is the preeminent show in creating dialogue around art. Everyone in the UK knows about Turner Prize. Everyone's got an opinion about it. Not necessarily everyone's seen it, but it's, as an entity, it's brilliant in creating that debate. So there's a great fit there. Alongside that, we have a gallery like Baltic that is very well able in scale to host such a show. And we've got an exhibition like Turner Prize that I think is a national prize. There's every reason why it ought to move around the country and be seen by different audiences. So I think it's great for Turner Prize, it's good for Tate to be partnering in this way, and I think it's great for Baltic, and it will bring new visitors to this gallery.
Do you feel the locus of contemporary art in Britain is sort of moving northwards?
I think the locus of contemporary art practice and training in Britain is becoming more diverse. So it's still fantastic to study fine art and practice your trade as an artist in the capital, but I think now you can work in Glasgow, can work in the northeast of England, in Manchester, and you can be part of an incredibly vibrant art scene. So Baltic's maybe the most high-profile contemporary art venue in the northeast, but within the city there might be 10 or 20 other institutions, commercial dealers who are operating internationally. We've got great commissioning agencies bringing work to the region. Two fantastic art schools in Newcastle Gateshead, but another great art school in Sunderland. And the whole region is really becoming enlivened. And so now internationally established artists would choose to base their practice here.
So do you feel the Turner Prize is inward or outward looking? In other words, are we talking about something that is to reward artists, to reward elevate them amongst their peers, or are we talking about something that is actually bringing up the profile of art for the public?
The role of Turner Prize, both in engaging new audiences and being a part of the contemporary art sector, is really important. So those very well involved in contemporary art are always very interested to know what's going on in the Turner Prize, but also new audiences and the broad media are also intrigued to know what's going to be on each year's shortlist.
And could you tell us a little bit about the four artists, for those who may not know, and also why you think they've been nominated this year?
Yeah, well, I suppose I have a joint role as one of the jurors and as the host of the exhibition this year. And I think from the jury's point of view, one of the important things about this year's selection, it's absolutely on merit. Everyone is picked because of the quality of their work. But the fortuitous thing was that we had the luxury of being able to present four artists with very different practice. So we have Carla Black, who's an installation artist working with found materials, with cosmetics, with items of everyday life, and artist pigment. She's a wonderful colorist. We also have Martin Boyce, who's making sculptures that are based on the characteristics of 20th century design, the power that they have in sculptural terms. We have George Shaw, who in first glance is a traditional representational painter, but then looking more deeply into his work, you find that he uses Humbrol enamel paints. The surface of the painting is unlike anything else you've seen. The content of the painting is also slightly uncertain, disturbing. The paintings are always devoid of human life, and yet they're charged with atmosphere. And then finally Hilary Lloyd, who's a filmmaker and video artist, who not only presents these incredibly careful studies of urban life, but in addition to that, creates them and presents them in a context where every item of equipment, the projectors, the DVD players, the cables, everything becomes sculptural within her installation. They've got a fantastically diverse range of work, and yet the jury, unfortunately, have got to find one amongst them who we feel is this year's winner.
The Turner Prize is sort of renowned for causing controversy. I mean, you have Damien Hirst Hearst, you have the unmade Venice,
Yes.
etc.
Yeah.
And yet, none of these artists seem so explicitly to court controversy. Could you comment on this a little bit? What does this suggest?
Well, I think it's fair to say that as the famous exhibition at the Royal Academy at the height of the YVA sensation kind of declared, there was a moment in time when artists were using certain strategies that maybe had been derived from the media and from the advertising industry, where it was very much about grabbing attention to make a very valid and sometimes subtle point. I think things have moved on a little bit. Maybe work's a little bit more considered now. Maybe the media's a little bit more sophisticated in the way that it consumes art. And so those tactics change, but that's art history. You know, you can see this throughout art history. There are times when people are making huge paintings, like Victorian times, that was the norm. If you come 50 years on into the early 20th century, artists are making fairly domestic sized work. So these are normal transitional phases in art history, and we're in another phase, and hopefully this year's shortlist gives people a sense of what this moment in art history represents.
One final question. So the Turner Prize is a pretty hard act to follow. Where next for the Baltic?
Well, Baltic's 10 years old next year, and what we will do is continue to press on with a programme which combines the very greatest names in contemporary art with the most exciting innovation and practice that we can identify on a global level. We've already worked with artists from 49 different nations, and we will continue to ensure that our programme is genuinely global. And right now, as well as Turner Prize in this floor of galleries, upstairs we're about to launch a major installation by Michael Smith and Mike Kelly, which, you know, is its only European manifestation, and it is another must-see show. So that's very much part of our mission moving forward.